Science fiction author Ray Bradbury talks about his favorite topic, the future, how science fiction becomes science fact, and the things that inspired him early in life.
I like to ask people, what's the one subject we talk about every minute of the day, every hour of our life? There's only one subject, the future. What are you going to do an hour from now? What are you going to do tonight? What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do with your life? Are you going to get married or you're not going to get married? You're going to go to school or you're not going to school? It's all the future. You're going to have a friendship or no friendship. You're going to love someone or not love someone. But it's all in the next minute, the next hour, the next day, the next year. That's all we ever discuss, every single second. And it's strange to me that there should be such a rejection of the future by so many people out there who think it's not important to talk about it. But that's all I feel like talking about, because I want to help us to survive. I didn't realize till a few years ago that the history of science fiction goes back to the cave. In other words, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we drew pictures on the walls of caves. What were those pictures about? Solving problems. The mammoth, the saber-tooth, fire. How do you build a fire? How do you keep it running? That's science fiction, isn't it? Then you find out how to build a fire, and that's science fact. You move on to the next set of problems. How do you kill a mammoth? We didn't know. We had to find ways of making weapons to kill a mammoth. That's science fiction becoming science fact. So science fiction began on the walls of caves, dreaming ourselves to survival day after day for 100,000 years. And those pictures are still on the walls of the caves. So we've changed the walls, but we're still drawing on them, aren't we? On the walls of Egyptian tombs, on the walls of Greek cities, and now on our computer walls. And we're doing the same thing, trying to solve problems so that we can behave better this morning so we can survive tomorrow afternoon. People say, what's the difference between fantasy and science fiction? Well, science fiction is the art of the possible, reality, physics, physical laws. Fantasy is the art of the impossible. You walk through a wall, you can't do that. You can knock a wall down with dynamite, and that's science fiction, huh? But you can't walk through it. So if people just remember that science fiction is based on the sort of thing described by William Butler Yeats in the last line of his poem, Sailing to Byzantium. He said, of what is past or passing or to come. Everything we've ever done with our ideas and our sciences, everything we're doing now, and everything we'll do in the future, of what is past or passing or to come. Not the impossible, but the possible. There was a year when we thought we'd never make it to the moon, and then finally we invented a heat shield, and we could come back. But we had to find a way to come back before we could go, huh? So that's the difference then. Fantasy is the impossible, science fiction is the very much possible indeed. The fascinating thing about writing science fiction is to discover your own root system. So I grew up with the Greek and the Roman myths and the Egyptian myths. And as I grew older, and I read these stories, which have everything to do with all of our lives, all of our loves and our jealousies and hatreds and wars and what have you, I fell completely under their spell. And I look back on those periods when I was 10, 11, 12 years old as wonderful times. And when I finished the Martian Chronicles and reread it a year or two later, I said to myself, my gosh, didn't realize this is Greek mythology. This is the Roman myths. These are the gods come to the earth again. So we have to speak in metaphors. We speak in special tongues so that we will be remembered and we can simplify things. And science fiction does that. It makes metaphors of problems and hands them back to us, saying, you know, not only don't burn books, but love books. Be madly in love with books because they're worth loving and they're the excitement of ourselves. And we go to books to find ourselves in them. We don't go to find other authors. We go for mirror images of ourselves. And these are the myths then that the Romans spoke of and the Greeks spoke of that are immensely exciting this late in time. If I have one or two special lessons to teach, it's to stay in touch with the things that you love when you're very young. Because I fell in love with dinosaurs and the myths and legends of the dinosaurs, I've had a terrific life. I fell in love with Buck Rogers comic strips when I was 9. I began to write about landing on the moon when I was 12 and going off to Mars. So I started that way and I end that way. There's no difference between me in this very hour of my life than the 12-year-old boy that I was, you know, 56, 57 years ago. The joy is still there. My love of Tarzan, John Carter, dinosaurs, toys, robots remains the same. And so you have a good life that way. And you don't listen to anyone else about your taste. It has to be completely your own. Your excitement, your joy, your loves, what you need to feed on.